What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. So today we are going to be talking about one of the main components in a good roller coaster, airtime. Airtime is one of the many forces that makes up a well-rounded ride. Lifting out of your seat, either floating or being ejected at high speeds on a roller coaster, being completely safe, but having the sensation of flying out. When you think of airtime, you probably think of some of the biggest airtime machines on the planet. Rides like Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point, El Toro at Great Adventure, or, more recently, Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa. All of these rides have some of the greatest and most iconic airtime moments on the planet. A lot of the best coasters I've ever ridden would appear on the list, but some of my favorite airtime moments of all time are on some rather obscure coasters that I wouldn't rank anywhere near as high. I am going off the beaten path today to look at some underrated airtime moments. Have you ever had that sensation of riding an average roller coaster that hasn't gotten too much hype, and then you experience a great moment of force, including airtime? This is what I'm going to be talking about today. Great, incredible, world-class airtime moments on average-sized roller coasters. So let's get right into it. This is Cedar Flags, and today we're going to be looking at my most underrated airtime moments. So before I get into the video, I want to look at some honorable mentions. The first one is the airtime moment on the top of Revenge of the Mummy's launch at Universal Orlando. This is a very unique moment, providing both lateral forces and negative forces, and it is a very intense and sustained moment. Though I love this moment and wanted to put it on the list so bad, I have seen a lot more people talking about it in videos. The next two honorable mentions are found at Dorney Park in Pennsylvania, on the two B&M coasters, Hydra and Talon, which both sport weirdly shaped airtime moments on models that would not have airtime moments usually. Finally, for the honorable mentions, I want to talk about the drop on Hydrus at Casino Pier in New Jersey. Now, this moment definitely is talked about in the coaster community, but is nowhere near as hyped as I believe it should be. This is one of my favorite airtime moments of all time. But anyways, let's talk about that in another video. I want to get into some of the most underrated moments I have ever experienced when it comes to the airtime category. Moments that you may have not even heard about. So let's get right into it. For the first moment, we are going to go back decades in the past to talk about a model that has definitely become a little more outdated. This is the Pinfari looping Zyklon. Now, when people think of these rides, they think of roughness and not a lot of comfort, and let me completely agree, this ride is uncomfortable, it is pretty rough at some moments, but it is definitely worth it due to one moment. If you sit in the back row, that first drop is one of the most insane airtime moments you will ever experience, period. This is both a combination of the incredibly sharp profiling of the drop, the fact that there is a third car on some of these models, and of course, the weird over-the-shoulder restraints. This is a crazy airtime moment, and feels a lot like some of the last moments on Magnum XL 200, but much, much stronger. It is a very strong moment, it is a very sharp moment, it is a very steep moment, but it is a very short moment. But instead of dreading the roughness and discomfort of this ride, I say look forward to this incredible S-tier airtime moment. Over 10 years ago, I got to get my first ride on Skyrocket at Kennywood, and I was absolutely blown away. But as I got to learn more about roller coasters and thrill rides, I realized that Skyrocket really wasn't one of the best, but still a great supporting coaster. And I have to say, there is a hidden gem on this coaster. Now, though the rest of the layout might be rather average, that top hat is no joke. No matter what row you sit in, you are going to be absolutely flung out of your seat, and it is going to feel like one of the most intense airtime moments you will ever experience. Though I like Phantom's airtime moments more, when it comes to pure intensity, Skyrocket has the most intense. If you sit in the front row, you are going to get absolutely flung while cresting up the top hat, and if you're sitting in the back row, you are going to fly out of your seat while going down the top hat. It really depends on where you sit, but in most rows, this moment is absolutely insane. Plus, if you're sitting in the back row, you will get a moment just as intense off of the mid-course brake run. Now, about a week ago, I talked about some of my favorite airtime moments at Cedar Point, and I talked a lot about Gemini. Now, Gemini is actually my favorite aero coaster of all time, and a coaster that actually makes my top 30. So why do I like this ride so much? Well, it is the Airtime, and I only put this ride so high because of my back row rides. There are a lot of great Airtime moments on this ride if you sit in the back, but there is one that overshadows them all. It is what I like to call the head chopper hill. It is after the second turnaround you go down into a little dip, and then you rise once again into this Airtime moment that seems to look a little shallow, especially if you're sitting in the back row. But then, as you decide to go in the down curve, it keeps getting steeper and steeper, and you slam back into your seat at full force with a head chopper right above you. This moment is very hard to explain, but with the janky aero transitions and those lap bars, this has got to be one of the most intense Airtime moments I have ever experienced. Staying in the same general area as the last two, we are going to look at Six Flags Great America's very own American Eagle. This intimate first generation Woody is definitely a hidden gem in this park. It's fun, it's adventurous, and it is a long experience, which I absolutely adore. But the crowning jewel of this ride is not the helix, not the finale, not the dueling aspect, but the low to the ground camelbacks after the first drop. Now, on bigger wooden coasters like these, either the profiling over the years or the roughness takes away from the Airtime, but man, those Airtime moments at the bottom of the first drop seem to be some of the most intense on a traditional Woody. There are two of these low to the ground bunny hops, and on each of them, you fly out of your seat with the thin PTC lap bars holding you down, and once again, in the second moment. Overall, even if you can't stand this ride, definitely ride it for this 1 or 2 moments, because these moments are no joke whatsoever. For our final moment, we are going to go down to Florida to talk about a ride at SeaWorld Orlando. Ever since my revisit in 2022, I have new things to say, including rides on the new Icebreaker coaster, which is a phenomenal small ride. I'm talking about a moment in the middle of the ride's layout that I feel like is overlooked. This is the outward bank turn. And this is on this list for many reasons. Reason number 1, I cannot process this being on a Premier Rides coaster. Second off, the feeling of being sideways for a prolonged amount of time truly is a unique one. And third of all, you are out of your seat the entire time. Instead of screaming or hollering, I was on this moment just saying to myself, whoa, how on earth did they do this? And while Iron Gwazi does this element better, that element gets a lot of praise while this element seems to be left in the dust. Well, it is an incredible element within its own right. This element just feels very weird, but very good at the same time. Overall, the sensation of floating and being sideways on a Premier nonetheless is a very unique experience that you need to try out when riding Icebreaker. Anyways, the purpose of this video was to give some light on elements that I feel like don't give enough hype. These elements are some of the best Airtime moments I have ever been on, and can honestly stand up to some of the better elements out there like the hills on Steel Vengeance or El Toro. So let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below. Let me know if you've experienced any of these Airtime moments, and let me know if you'd want me to do a part 2 or a favorite Airtime moments of all time video. Anyways, this is Cedar Flags, and I'll see you all later.